The human mind is far more than just a biological organ or a container of thought. It is an entire universe, vast and immeasurable, woven from countless strands of experience, perception, and imagination. It is a cosmos where galaxies of memories spin alongside nebulas of emotion, and where every idea, every fleeting feeling, every spark of creativity exists, like a star lighting up the darkness. This inner world is always in motion, its landscapes reshaping themselves with every passing moment, like waves rising and falling on an eternal sea. On certain days, that sea is gentle and still, its surface smooth and reflective, mirroring the peace of a quiet sky. Thoughts come with ease, emotions feel balanced, and everything seems to align in harmony, as if the mind itself is at rest, breathing slowly with the rhythm of the universe. But the calm is not permanent. There are also days when storms gather without warning, days when the winds of anxiety roar through the caverns of thought, and waves of doubt and confusion crash hard against the fragile shores of clarity. In these moments, the mind can feel like a battlefield, where inner voices shout over one another and peace seems impossible to find. It becomes a place of chaos, of noise, of restlessness. And yet, even in the heart of the storm, there is something deeper, something untouched. Beneath the crashing waves and the wild winds, there is always a hidden depth, a place of stillness that remains constant, unmoved by surface turmoil. It is vast, quiet, and enduring, like the deep ocean beneath a hurricane, where silence reigns and truth waits patiently. This is the true nature of your consciousness, a living paradox. On the surface, it is ever changing, shaped by the world, by experience, by thought. But at its core, it is timeless, an unwavering stillness, a center of awareness that watches everything without being swept away. It is in this depth that the self resides, not as a fixed identity, but as a quiet presence, always observing, always knowing. The mind, in all its brilliance and madness, is a gateway not just to understanding the world, but to discovering the infinite within yourself. We often live under the illusion that we are in full command of our minds, that we are the deliberate authors of every thought, the conscious directors of our focus, the rulers of our emotional landscape. We like to believe that the mind bends to our will, that we can guide it precisely where we want, when we want. But if you take a step back and observe with genuine stillness and honesty, a different reality reveals itself. Thoughts appear spontaneously, without any conscious decision. One moment you are here, and the next, a random memory from years ago surfaces without warning. Emotions well up unexpectedly, sometimes triggered, sometimes without a traceable cause. They rise like waves out of an unseen ocean, moving you before you even have the chance to react. If we were truly in charge of our mental domain, wouldn't we be able to stop a thought at will? Wouldn't we be able to switch off the inner dialogue with a single command, like turning off a light? And yet, try it. Try to cease all thinking for just one uninterrupted minute. Try to silence that inner voice entirely. You'll soon see that it doesn't obey. It resists. It persists. It wriggles through your grasp. That's because the mind does not operate under your control. It functions on its own, like a machine set in motion long before you became aware of it. The mind thinks by itself. It is a self-generating process, fueled by years of habits, emotional residues, repeated experiences, and deep-seated conditioning. Over time, your mental patterns have formed grooves, just like a river carves its bed through rock with relentless flow. And just like that river, your thoughts flow along the same tracks, the same loops, playing out the same narratives you've heard inside yourself 1,000 times. You may try to intervene, to resist, to block the current, but resistance only makes the pressure rise. The more you push against an unwanted thought, the more power you give it. The more you try to silence it through force, the louder it echoes back at you. This was the first profound realization I encountered in the monastery, the first crack in the illusion I had carried all my life. You cannot stop the mind by force. It's not a battle to be won with effort or aggression. It is a process that must be understood, observed, and eventually transcended, not suppressed. In the early stages of my life as a monk, I found myself caught in a fierce inner battle. I longed for silence, for the stillness I had read about in ancient texts and heard spoken of by the elder monks. Every day I sat in meditation, posture upright, breath steady, filled with determination to conquer the noise within. But the harder I tried, the louder it grew. My mind seemed to mock me, filling the silence with an even greater flurry of thoughts, memories, fantasies, doubts, regrets. The more I pushed for stillness, the more resistance I faced. It was as if my very effort was feeding the chaos. After one particularly disheartening session, I went to my teacher, heavy with frustration and self-doubt. "Master," I asked, "I've tried everything. Discipline, focus, even force. But my thoughts just won't stop. No matter how long I sit, they keep coming. What am I doing wrong?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached for the teapot beside him and poured a steaming cup. Handing it to me, he gestured to the rising vapor. "Watch the steam," he said calmly. "Tell me, does it disappear because you command it to, or does it fade away in its own time?" I watched as the tendrils of steam curled and danced in the air, twisting freely before vanishing into nothing. "Thoughts," he said, his voice gentle yet precise, "are just like this steam. They arise naturally, they drift through the space of your mind, and they pass. The suffering begins when you cling to them, when you believe they must be controlled, or that they mean something about who you are." That simple metaphor opened a doorway in me. It wasn't a sudden enlightenment, but something shifted. I saw that the problem was never the presence of thought. It was the struggle against it. I had made my mind into an opponent, a battlefield, but the mind was never my enemy. I simply didn't understand its nature. This became the beginning of a quiet revolution within me. I realized that peace was not about achieving some sterile emptiness. It was about changing the way I related to my thoughts. Thoughts are not invaders to be expelled. They are natural phenomena, like wind moving through trees or clouds crossing the sky. They do not define us, nor do they require our constant involvement. The true practice is not one of force, but of freedom. It is learning to sit with what arises without clinging, without pushing away. It is learning to disidentify from the movement of thought, to see clearly that you are not the thought, you are the one witnessing it. Just as a person standing on a bridge watches the river flow beneath them, you can watch the flow of your own mind, its eddies, its waves, its occasional storms, and remain untouched. Some thoughts will be comforting, others painful, many meaningless. But none of them are you. You are not the current. You are the presence above it, the watcher, the silent awareness in which everything comes and goes. This is the quiet power of mindfulness, the recognition that your essence lies not in what you think, but in the awareness that observes the thinking. When you stop trying to control the steam and simply watch it rise and fade, a deeper peace begins to emerge, one not dependent on silence, but on understanding. If you begin to observe your mind with care and subtlety, you'll notice something curious, something that often goes overlooked in the endless stream of mental activity. Thoughts are not a seamless flow. They appear one after another, yes, but between them, there are gaps. Tiny, almost imperceptible moments of stillness, brief pauses where no thought exists, no image flickers, no narrative runs. In those slivers of silence, there is no story being told, no memory being replayed, no anticipation of what comes next. There is no past, no future, only this presence. These moments are so subtle, so quiet, that we usually miss them entirely. We're so caught up in chasing the next thought, reacting to the last one, that we overlook the stillness in between. But if you slow down, if you truly pay attention, you'll start to notice these gaps. And the more you become aware of them, the more you begin to rest in them. What begins as a fleeting hush, a blink between sentences, gradually opens up into something far more profound. That flicker of stillness, when gently embraced, begins to widen. It's as if the curtain of noise parts, and suddenly there is space, clear, vast, unburdened. And in that space, you begin to sense something extraordinary. Not just the absence of thought, but the presence of something deeper. A silence that isn't empty, but full of life. A stillness that feels familiar, not because it's new, but because it has always been there, beneath the surface, beneath the movement, beneath the noise, waiting. This silence is not something you create. It's something you remember. It's the background of every moment, the canvas on which every thought is painted. And the more you return to it, the more it welcomes you, not as someone trying to escape the mind, but as someone who is finally beginning to see beyond it. Most of the suffering we experience does not actually arise from the thoughts themselves. It stems from how tightly we cling to them, how completely we identify with their stories. We believe our fears without question, as if they hold absolute truth. We wrap ourselves in our judgments, letting them shape our perception of ourselves and others. We carry old wounds into the present moment, replaying them again and again as if they are still unfolding, still real, still capable of hurting us anew. But consider this. What if the problem isn't the thought, but the fact that we mistake it for reality? What if the suffering isn't in the worry itself, but in our unquestioned belief in it? What if, instead of being pulled into every emotional storm or mental spiral, you could pause, step back, and simply observe? This shift in perspective is at the heart of real inner freedom. It's not about shutting down the mind or forcing silence. It's about seeing clearly and relating differently. You can learn to witness your thoughts without getting tangled in them, to allow them to pass through like weather across the sky. This is the essence of the practice. 1. Notice when a thought arises. The moment you realize, I'm thinking, you've already taken the first step toward freedom. 2. Label it gently, not with judgment, but with awareness. You might say to yourself, thinking, judging, planning, remembering, or worrying. This simple naming creates a small space, a moment of clarity. 3. Return to what is real and here. The breath as it moves through your body, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sounds around you. Return to presence, without force, without pressure. This isn't about controlling the river of thought. It's about recognizing that you are not the river. You are the one who stands on the bank, watching. The current may flow fast or slow, smooth or wild, but you don't have to be swept away. With each moment of awareness, you reclaim your footing. You begin to dwell not in the chaos of mind, but in the quiet strength of the witness. And from that place, peace is no longer something you chase. It's something you remember, something that was never far away. As your practice deepens and your attention becomes more refined, something quiet yet profoundly transformative begins to unfold. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic revelation. More often, it arrives like a soft remembering, a gentle uncovering of something that has always been with you, hidden beneath the surface noise. You begin to sense a presence that is prior to all thought, all feeling, all mental movement. It is a still, silent awareness, not flashy, not loud, but unmistakably there. It doesn't need to be created, summoned, or forced. It was never absent. You simply hadn't noticed it before. This awareness is not a concept or a belief. It's a direct experience. The more you rest in it, the more familiar it becomes. Like light quietly filling a dark room, it reveals the truth that had been obscured by years of mental chatter and identification. You begin to see clearly. You are not the voice in your head. You are the listener, the one who hears the inner dialogue without becoming it. You are not the emotions that rise and fall. You are the open, compassionate space in which those emotions are felt and released. You are not your story, not your past, not your imagined future. You are the presence that exists only and always now. This is not a belief to be adopted. It is a truth to be seen. A truth that becomes clearer each time you let go of identifying with what passes and turn inward toward what remains. And this is the Great Awakening. Not a sudden escape from the mind, but a return to what has always been true. You are not the mind. You are the awareness behind it, still, spacious, unmoved. The final stage is not about eliminating thought or transcending the mind in some dramatic way. It is about learning to live from the stillness you've discovered beneath it. The mind doesn't stop. Thoughts still come, plans to make, memories that arise, ideas that form and fade, but their grip loosens. They no longer rule your experience or define your reality. You begin to see them for what they are, useful tools when needed, background noise when not. You engage with them consciously, and when they're no longer helpful, you let them drift away without resistance. This shift changes everything. Life begins to feel lighter, not because the external world has changed, but because your relationship to it has. The heaviness you once carried, the drama, the tension, the need to fix or control everything, it softens. Problems arise as they always do, but they no longer consume you. You see them as temporary movements in the mind, not as reflections of your identity or worth. And with that clarity comes peace. Joy, too, undergoes a quiet transformation. It no longer hinges on things going your way, on achievements or possessions or the approval of others. Instead, it begins to emerge from something far simpler, the sheer aliveness of the present moment. A breath, a breeze, the quiet between words, a smile exchanged without reason. You find yourself living with a kind of freedom that doesn't shout or boast. It hums beneath the surface, steady and grounded. It is the freedom of not being dragged by every thought, not being bound by every emotion. It is the freedom of presence, and in that presence, life becomes not something to chase or fix, but something to live, fully, consciously, and from the stillness that has always been yours. There will always be days when the mind feels like a storm, when thoughts swirl and clash like thunderclouds, when old patterns rise up again, and when distractions pull you in all directions. On those days, you might feel as though you've lost your way, as if the peace you once touched has been swept away by the current of mental chaos. It's easy to feel trapped, overwhelmed by the weight of your own thoughts and emotions. But now, you know something that will change everything. You are not lost in the storm. You are the sky that contains it. The storm, with all its noise and turbulence, may come and go, but the sky remains. It holds the storm, witnesses its passing, and yet remains untouched by its fury. The clouds may obscure the sun for a time, but they never change the sky's true nature. In the same way, the thoughts, emotions, and distractions of the mind may rise, but they do not define you. You are not the storm. You are the vast, open space in which the storm happens. The mind will do what it does. It will continue to churn, to create noise, to pull you into its current, But you, the observer, are not bound by it. You are the stillness, the awareness that watches it all unfold, the witness that is beyond all the mental activity. Even in the midst of the storm, you have a choice to remember the sky, to pause, to breathe, to step back from the waves of thought and reconnect with the deep silence that always exists beneath them. Each moment offers you an invitation to return to that place of calm, to reconnect with the stillness that resides within you. It doesn't matter how fierce the storm is or how long it lasts. The sky is always there, waiting for you to remember it. This is the path to freedom. Not the absence of thoughts or emotions, but the ability to observe them without getting caught in them. The storm will pass, as all storms do. Thoughts will come and go, emotions will rise and fade, but your true nature remains constant. You are not the mind. You are the awareness behind it. And in that awareness, you are free. Free from the pull of every fleeting thought. Free from the grip of old habits and emotional turbulence. If these words resonate with you, share them with someone who might need to hear them. The reminder that peace is always available is something we all need to be reminded of from time to time. And if you're ready to go deeper, the path is simple yet profound. Pause. Breathe. Notice. These small, conscious actions create the space for the awareness of your true nature to emerge. The peace you seek is not somewhere out there, not something to chase. It is already here, within you, just waiting for you to notice.